keep talking and we'll forget and we'll just be talking about some gold and we got to get that on record. One of the things of why I wanted you on is because there's that saying that you put on your social media of every dad says they're willing to die for their kids,
Yeah.
but are they actually willing to live for them? It's just fucking prevalent.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's brought up tons of times. And I think I've seen a very big shift in the role model of dads recently. Probably in the past 2 years has been this shift of getting back to that masculinity aspect of dads. And so it's a great topic, of parents overall just being able to live for their kids. And a lot of people ask me like, "What's your biggest motivation?" And it's easy. It's easy for parents to say kids, but for me, it is my kids, and it should be hands down as a parent. Even though it's easy to say, it's harder to execute on
Mm-hmm.
because we have that reason of, oh, my kids make me busy, or my kids don't allow me the time here, but I'll still like sacrifice my life if I have to, which is great.
This episode is sponsored by Black Label Meat. Black Label Meat only sells premium quality meat that is grass-fed, grass-finished, and they do regenerative grazing practices. Check them out now, blacklabelmeatcompany.com, and use the code Jesse for 10% off.
But how much of a sacrifice are you going to be giving to your kids if you can't sacrifice yourself, right? Like,
Yeah.
I talk about it in we'll just say a generic fight overall. If I'm a dad and I have to defend my kids and I'm going to die for them, that's going to be a pretty quick death for me if I'm not taking care of myself, So yeah, I died for them, but how fast was it? But if I'm
Dad didn't put up much of a fight.
exactly like, and so that's where the live form comes into play. And when I dove into myself and focused on me to help others and help my family, I realized like, man, you have to live for them.
Yeah, the dad who's not living for their kids and how we were talking like, if they had a fight to the death for them on a random Tuesday, it's kind of off topic, on topic, but the thing on social media that gets me laughing the most is when you see like a really heavy set guy going down 2 steps and has trouble going down the 2 steps and then he like falls into his car and then flops onto the ground. That makes me laugh. But on the other hand, it's the saddest thing because that guy has kids, or like, have you seen that video of the guy who threw his kid when the raccoon like bit his
Oh,
leg
I think like throws them in the air, right?
and is screaming and like take my kid, but not my leg type of thing. And I'm just like, man, it's so like, again, I'm just repeating myself, but prevalent out there. And I got a question for you. Do you actually think that this movement, and you see more of it, is it because we follow and look at similar people who have a similar mindset like us on social media? Or when you actually go out into the world, is this something you see?
No, that's great. That's great. Like, yes, my Instagram and TikTok are filled with, my algorithm is set towards that.
Uh-huh.
So there's definitely that filter. And when I go out to, I was just thinking about it when you talked about it, like how you said it's not sad, but it's sort of funny, man. When I go to my kids' like practices or games, and I'm looking around at the majority or the percentage of those that are in shape, and it's still very low.
Yeah.
Like, I go to my kids' flag football game every Monday, and I look around, and I'm always trying to like gauge, like, okay, you're always looking at other dads, trying to be like, that guy works out, but it's not as much as I would like, and so there's definitely that filter. But I think that filter is always growing on my social media. With social media just being a great place to learn that and get motivated. So yes, there's definitely that bias to what I follow. But when I go out to the normal world, I live in Central Texas, so I'm not going to say Texans are very in shape overall. They live a healthy lifestyle. They're very chill. And then when I go out, I see it, and I'm sort of like, man. And there's a guy I follow. He does a lot of presentations in like short shorts and like tight shirt. I can't remember his name. Ooh, he's bald.
Is it Andy Elliott?
It might be him. And I think he talks about before, like just showing that, even though some people will say like, why do you always wear this tight stuff, and he's just like, like I put in the work, so I wear like mediums, right, when I go to places or cut off sleeves. And the intent is to show people, hey, he can do it, there are dads that can do it. Because when you surround yourself with all those people that aren't doing it, you're not going to do it. So I try to
Yeah.
go out there and just show them, like, hey, like it's possible. Just put in some work, and you'll see change.
Yeah, when I like to do things, I think kind of like on your social. In my own neighborhood, it's like being the fittest dad in the neighborhood. I'm in Nevada, northern Nevada, so we get a lot of snow, especially where I live. I'm in between Reno and Tahoe, so we get a lot of snow, and I will shovel the snow shirtless. I don't care how cold it is, like, and I'll be in shorts, sometimes no shoes, shoveling it, and I want to actually shovel it faster than all the other dads out there who are just bundled to a T. And it's funny because this last winter, there's our neighbor boys, one of the young kids. He was like 4. He's like, "Dad, look, he's naked. He's naked." But I had shorts on, right? And the dad's like says something. He's like, "No, Dad, look, that guy's naked in the snow." And he's like, "Yeah, I know." And I just was like, on the inside, I was just like, "Yeah, man, this is what fucking hard work looks like."
Yeah.
Like being able to just be in shape all year round and just demonstrating it. Again, when I go out in public, people in Nevada aren't in any better shape than anywhere else.
Hmm.
It's a direct representation to me of like how we feel about ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell people, look at yourself naked in the mirror. It's probably how you feel on the inside as well.
Yeah, and I always think just going out with my kids in public, right? Like that's a huge thing right there. Like when I go shopping or I'm at their practices, like man, half time at my kids' practice, I don't even watch it. I walk around or I'll rock or I'll run. I'll be
Mhm.
taking an eye in, every now and then, but I'm not sitting in a chair like most parents, just on their phone,
In the
wasting
chair.
away when you have
Hmm.
like 45 minutes to execute on and put work in. And so like
Hmm.
the parents, I'll get there, I'll drop my kid off, I'll throw my ruck on, just start walking around his practice, just just doing what I
Nice.
got to do and just moving. And yeah, when you talk about it's just the way we are, it's man, I don't know what's more motivating than, like you said, standing in front of a mirror every day or just going out in public with your kids and it's, getting winded, maybe carrying groceries, or if it's cold out, or you have to go up a hill somewhere and you're tired.
Yeah, it's a representation of us, how our children are gonna be. Again, you do a lot of workouts with your kids. It's the same in my household. My kids are about working out because dad is about working out, and they respect working out and eating healthy. Like I'm creating freaking food snobs over here.
My kid
Like,
can read labels on the back and look at the calories.
oh yeah, no, they understand that. They're like, oh, what's in this? Oh, look at that sugar. That stuff's not good for our body machines.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
when I started this journey, my parents moved to Texas with us, and they would go over to my parents' house. And my parents are now losing weight and getting in shape, which is great to see. But
Hmm.
at first, I didn't force it on them per se, because it's very hard as a person who's a trainer to work with your parents. It's just tough,
Hmm.
It's very hard. So I never really told them like, hey, parents, like it'd be great if you guys start eating healthy, but they were just like in their ways. But my kids would go over no mercy. They'd be like, Opa, look at your belly, compared to dad, or what is all this food? And they started getting in shape, like my dad's
Hmm.
lost 50 pounds, my mom lost
Hell yeah.
30. They've cut out alcohol and chocolate, and it's all in. And so my kids are like mini coaches when they go places. And sometimes it's
Yeah.
hard for me to go out in public with them places because they'll be like, Dad, why is he so big? I'm like, like maybe there's something wrong, like I don't know.
Oh,
But
my.
at the same time, I don't care, like if you're not going to take it from me, you'll listen to a 9-year-old when they call you out.
Yeah, and so mine are 3.5 and 7,
Like, oh, yeah.
and they are the most honest human beings on earth because they're calling people out on their food they're eating. Like, hey, Dad, what he's eating, that's not good for our body machines. And he'll tell these kids at like gymnastics who are eating fucking Cheetos, and he'll be like, that's not good for your body machine. That's not good for us.
I love
And
it.
they're like, oh, well, it's just a snack. Well, why is he eating that snack if it's not good? And like I'm just like over here, and it's like I don't even care.
Yeah.
One, and then with my parents, I straight told them, "You guys want the kids to come over? You guys cannot have this kind of food." And my parents, like freaking snap of fingers, they changed it. They were like, all right, we got only these kind of fruits, only this kind of bars that are like $5 a bar type bars. Shout out to Jacob's Bars. Maybe you can sponsor the podcast one of these days.
Nice.
But I don't know if you've heard of Jacob Bars. It's cool. It's all
I
grass
haven't
fed,
now.
grass finished beef. They use beef tallow. They use beef
Huh.
tallow. They use raw honey, and they're good, man. They're good. But they essentially, my parents like completely changed their eating habits because it's like I ain't giving my kids none of this. Like, and I was kind of a trying to get into food snobbery when I was at home living with them, but it's one thing when I was a little snot to where in high school I'd make my mom buy stuff that was on my cart and then they had their cart. Because I was into like working out and football and trying to gain weight. And it's like, well, if anyone eats these steaks, I won't have enough steak for the week. But yeah, when it came to the kids, me and my wife were very just like, we went for straight food Nazis.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's been great because we can go somewhere and they don't even try to have any cake.
Yeah.
They're like, no, it's gonna make my tummy feel bad.
Mhm.
And it is us parents. Like, no kid has preference of like bad food when someone's like, well, I can't get him not to just eat chicken nuggets. It's like, well, you're the reason. They didn't drive their asses to McDonald's and get this habit of chicken nuggets on their own.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
we don't want to take responsibility.
that's a funny topic of kids' food aversions, right? Like your parents will be like, "Oh, my kids don't like this," and I'm like, "Well, you probably don't like it, so why are they going to eat it?" It's the same thing as I say all the time. You know, they do as they see, not as you
Mm-hmm.
tell them.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with exercise. You know, like parents now are like, "Oh, I want my kids to go outside and play." I'm like, "Are you outside and playing?" They're like, "Well, I'm busy or it's hot." I'm like, "What do you think your kid's going to say if you just use that same
Mm-hmm.
excuse all the time?"
Yeah.
It's what it comes down to.
Or the parents who are like in the winter here, it's like, go outside and play in the snow. And it's like, well, you won't go outside because it's cold. You
Hmm.
won't go outside. You're not going to the lake. It is literally us as parents. Like, we have to take responsibility for everything that our kids do. There's no such thing as bad kids. They're just
Hmm.
poor leadership.
Yep. Yeah, it's what it comes down to in all aspects of life. You know, like there's no bad teams, there's bad leaders. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it applies to really everything in life. And it was nice for me to, man, I say be the old me because now I can see the difference. You know, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that have seen what I do now, they may think that's what I've always done, but it's only been for about 3 years. And so being in the military, when I tell a lot of airmen, hey, I want you to get 100% on your PT test, the old me would say it, but I wasn't getting it. I wasn't getting the
Mm-hmm.
100%. So I was like, back then I was like, go do it, you know, but now that I've maxed out the past 3 years in a row, I can tell them go do it, and not feel remorse when they give me an excuse. Back then,
Yeah.
I would have taken that excuse, right? Like, oh, it's a hard run, you know, I haven't trained. I would be like, oh, okay, because I didn't do it. But now that I've done the past 3 years of my age, I'll look at them and go, nope, no excuse. Like, and I'll tell them straight
Yeah.
up. I was like, the reason I can tell you this bluntly is because I've been there. I was there.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting the 90s, 92s to just wait a year. But now that I know what it takes to get 100, it's doable, it's possible. I can tell you straight up, go get 100. And they'll
Yeah.
be like, oh, shoot, he means it. And I'll be like, I'll go run it with you. I'll tell them now, like, I'll go run to pace you for 100. And they're like, dang it. No excuses.
Yeah. No, that is awesome. It kind of just reminds me of going hunting. I'm a backcountry archery hunter, and sometimes you have to hike in 8 miles, 11 miles, and then you're doing, I don't know, 6 to 10 mile days.
Mm-hmm.
And you drag along a buddy who's been like, I've been training. And it's like, well, then let's go. Like, we got to go up and over that summit. And then they're like, yeah, but I mean, I haven't been training that much. It's like, we're in the middle of nowhere. We can't turn back. Like, that's where the deer are. Yeah. And so it makes you want to go hunting just by yourself.
Yeah.
Long
That's,
story. Yeah.
yeah, I work out a lot by myself. Really probably that same concept. You know, I'll invite airmen over to my house to work out. We'll do workouts together, and I never like bank on them to come because
Mm.
if they're not there, I'll just work out on my own.
Yeah.
Most times I just do what I can, and I love to bring airmen over. I was just talking about it last week. We did a tactical workout on base, and I was talking to the guys who come quite a bit with me, and there's this new guy came with us, and I was like, man, I feel bad. They're like, well, I was like, we get all these guys that come out for the first time, but they never come back. I don't know if I'm just being too hard but same, as soon as I said it, I was like, nope, I'm just going to keep running it, like they don't come
Yeah.
back. Like that's it.
Yeah. All throughout history, there was an aspect where it's either, you survive or you don't. Your offspring, you're never going to produce any offspring. Like this whole out of shape thing, not pushing ourselves to the fullest is a very new concept for the human
Yeah. It's
because
only the past, like, I'd say like 30 years, maybe 40, 1968, 70s. Yeah. Right around there, probably.
yeah, like food abundance is very new to the human body. Being overweight is new. Um, and then if we just go back 200 years and before, you had to be the best you could be at all times because you never know when you're going to be invaded by another village. You had to go to war. There was going to be a fucking lion or a bear you had to fight off. Just walking through the woods, but now it's like we don't feel that we have to push ourselves in anything. We have such a like complacent mindset, which is sad on one hand. On the other hand, you got kids like mine and yours who are going to be going through life absolutely destroying people because it's just in their nature. And there was actual representation of people literally doing it that showed them, not on TV, but in the household.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's going to be a huge gap in the next like 30, 40 years of
Hmm.
extreme ends, not just financially or politically, but like I say in shape. There's going to be a large population that's just going to be crushing it and probably running a majority of things. And there's going
Yeah.
to be that population that's just complacent. Like there's a lot
Hmm.
of movies that portray the future, like Wally's a good one. All those ones with
Oh,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
VR setup, and Sergio with Bruce Willis was like another one. But like I tell a lot of people, like my kid is not going to have this problem. He's going to be a killer. Like
Yeah.
he's gonna be alpha, and he's going to lead and win, and at least try to control it. Because if he's not, he's not. He's not gonna go anywhere. It's gonna be tough. Like, yeah, it's very hard to be complacent and still succeed. Like that is, and that's what we're at. We're at this point right now with complacency and comfortability with getting everything to us, and most people are just like, "Oh, this is fine. It's average, or I'm okay." But
Hmm.
they ain't gonna be happy or wealthy or successful. They're just gonna be soon. There's not gonna be that middle ground. It's gonna be
Yeah, yeah.
you're either broke or overweight or miserable, or you're just succeeding, because the middle ground is tough right now. It's just starting to divide really fast.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, in the years coming, that gap's only gonna get wider.
Mm-hmm.
And the people on the succeeding side, it's gonna be so much multifaceted. It's not gonna be just looked at as only money.
Yeah,
It's gonna be there's gonna be a whole plethora of tools in those people's toolbox versus throughout the 90s and 2000s. You could be worth a couple $100 million, completely overweight, miserable,
mm-hmm.
but that was what success looked like because you had all those commas in your bank account. Where I think it's definitely going to be something that is going to be changing more.
I think the way we look is going to be like the new currency, almost sort of like what you're saying,
Hmm.
where because right now currency is, like you're saying, it's just not like the thing. Like, yeah, there's wealthy people, but it's, I think the way we look is going to be a currency, because it's showing, like you said, your example, getting 100 million was probably very, very tough and difficult at that time. Where when you had it, people were like, dang, he put in the work. But now it's like it's a lot easier to make money with the way technology is. So
Hmm.
working on your body is gonna be like the new, like, because you can't just cheat it. You can't make it easy. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
you can
yeah.
take all the random Zep up or whatever that stupid stuff is you want, but if you get off of it, you're gonna gain your weight. You have to do it your whole life. There's probably gonna be side effects, and so it's not the same. Like,
Yeah, the Ozempic.
yeah,
So the crazy thing about the studies on Ozempic is it actually reduces muscle mass more than it does body fat. So
yeah,
you're losing weight technically, but
because
you're just
isn't it
getting
like
softer.
yeah, that's what people don't realize when they lose weight. You don't lose just fat. You lose muscle and fat. And your
Hmm.
body's primarily going to lose muscle faster if you're not maintaining it. That's why I always tell my clients or my people, like, hey, just eat more protein. And a lot of my work with, they're like, oh, I'm going to gain weight doing that. And it's like, no, just like, hear me out. Like, trust me, just you'll feel better. You'll move better. You'll lose body fat. And then it was funny. I just saw that Epic or whatever put out like a commercial of like, hey, we now have an app that helps you exercise and track your food. It's like, no crap, because you guys know that
Yeah.
your medicine isn't the thing that's getting them the results. It's the
Mhm.
nutrition and the exercise on top of it. Like that's where they're starting to see better results. So like they just created like their own app now to like save themselves.
Yeah. Um, I want to go into kids working out and discipline, using exercise as a form of discipline, because in the Carstairs household, if my son, which he rarely does, talks back to mom, that boy's running laps. And there's been times where it's like, hey, dude, don't say that. Give me 10 push-ups right now. And again, he's been doing it since he was 5, 6 years
Yeah.
old, doing the push-ups. And then you have someone make a comment, which I know you've got these comments. Oh, you're gonna make him hate
Dude,
working out and
have
doing
you seen
push-ups.
that
Don't
video?
use I watched that video today on yours,
You see
and
the
I'm like,
comments, dude? They're insane.
dude, it's like they're like, he's gonna hate working out and then he's never gonna work out. It's like, no, because we work out outside of that as well.
Yeah. So that topic is new to me. Like I didn't grow up, but our generation didn't really grow up like that because we were outside so much. You know, exercise
Hmm.
wasn't like, but I don't want to say we had more respect for our parents back then, but I think we did because
Yeah.
this millennial generation of dads, you know, I saw a meme a couple days ago. It was like the millennial dads are the hardest ones because we grew up outside with the sort of a separation from our parents, but we're raising kids in this like father son brotherhood relationship. So it's weird how we grew up because it's all new to us, right? Like if I were to raise my kid how my dad raised me, I wouldn't. I don't know. It just doesn't work. You know, like I would feel weird. You know, like nothing wrong with the way my dad raised me. It's still great. But his generation was you go to work, you maybe played sports with your kid. You know, you didn't talk to him as much. You were an assertive father figure, right? Like the role person. But now, you know, like. But anyways, so the exercise and discipline is new to me, so I'm learning, but it's applicable and my kids love it. Like yesterday, my daughter left some snacks in our TV room and they know not to. My son goes, "Dad, JoJo left snacks. That's 20 push-ups." I was like, "Go get her." She was having a
Mhm.
tough night, so my son did the push-ups for her, which I was very grateful for. But she know, like, soon as I like pick it up and I go, "JoJo," she's like, "Oh, how many?" I'm like, 20. She's like, "Okay." She'll just sit there and like knock them out. But
Mhm.
it's shown us, and you know, because it's hard to, you know, I don't know if the generation takes yelling as serious, right, with what they see on TV and watching a lot of videos, and so it's just we do it. We exercise, and that's why it's beneficial, and that's why it works. So I tell a lot of people that comment on there, I try to be polite, and I'm like, hey, discipline and exercise in our family works because one, we exercise all the time with them, so they know what the movements are. Two, they see the benefits of it, so they see us doing it. They like even we'll do it too. You know, like my son has called me out if I've left the snack out. And I'll just knock out 10 push-ups, right? So we're doing it with them. And then three, it's just a good form of discipline. Like my son's not going to learn anything in timeout. My son's not going to
Yeah.
learn anything if I yell at him
Mhm.
or I don't know what other forms. Take their devices away. They're just going to get mad at me. They're going to get mad at me. They're going to do it in a wall sit or a plank or something. I don't care.
Yeah. And when I make my son go run, I'm gonna say 100% of the time when he comes back, he says he feels better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's like, I'm like, you feel better, bud? He's like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
There's been times where he was like getting in a funk. You could see he's about to get pissed. He's just like, his central nervous system's like not regulated properly. And it wasn't that he was hungry. And it's like, do you need to go run right now? Like, well, that, and he was like, I think I do. I just need to go run. He put on his shoes and he went and ran 2 laps. I thought he was just going to
Yeah.
run one. And he ran two and he came back and he's like, I feel so much better.
Yeah. We have our
And
driveway that's like 100 meters. And so we'll go out to the garage. And sometimes when I'm out there, I'll sort of, we have a dice ball that has like exercises on it. And that'll be like their discipline punishment ball. So like if they messed up, I'll be like,
oh,
hey, from today, you got 5 rolls. And it's simple stuff like 10 squats, 10 burpees, a minute plank, a bunch of fun ones too.
mhm.
But it's something crazy, and I don't choose them. And they'll be like, "Cool, 5," and they'll knock it out. And sometimes I'll just be like, "Hey, remember that time you did this?" They're like, "Yeah." And then we have like I said, our driveway is 100 meters, so they'll have to run down and back, and or they'll farmer carry or hold a plate over their head. But the dice thing's nice because one, like when I go work out in the garage and I'm doing exercise, sometimes I'll tell my son, like, "Do you want to work out with me?" If he says no, which is fine, I don't care. I'll be like, "Well, you got to either make up your own exercises on the whiteboard, like write down 3 exercises, or you can do 20 rolls on the dice. Most of the time they do 20 rolls on the dice because it's calisthenics and they think it's easier. But man, some of those there's a minute plank, a minute wall. Like there's some tough ones, but it's
Mhm.
their own pace. I'm just like, go do it. As long as you're out here with me and you're moving. And the dice one's nice for them because they can go pretty quick. Man, they can roll the dice and be out there in 10 minutes. And I'm like, cool,
Yeah.
whatever. But it's also their form of discipline. So we're associating their discipline with their exercise, and that's what it's too. That's why I love it too. I'm not making the discipline hard or to where like they can't do it. They sometimes, like you said, when they finish it, they get that dopamine of finishing something, right? And
Yeah.
being proud they did 5 push-ups, even though they're in trouble, but they did them. And eventually, and yeah, so it's a habit now. It's worked. Like sometimes, like let's see, we use it for the food one a lot because they just snack throughout the house. Sometimes when they just get angry, like you said, like we'll just look at each other in the evening or afternoon, be like, "Hey, I'm gonna go to the gym. Do you want to come with me?" I come out for just 10 minutes, and he'll be like, "Okay." And once he gets all restless, he'll move around and go back inside.
Yeah, it works. And I think, like you said, it's the best form to me because you could yell at them, you could beat the shit out of them, like whatever it is. It's like, but I'm curious of what the end result is, versus the end result of like, it's like you're going to go run, you're going to go do push ups, I'll have them hold the ball over their head
Okay, yeah,
and I'll talk to him while he's doing that. And then you see those little shoulders shaking. And it's like, that's exactly what I want. And he feels good. There's been one time where I had him hold the ball over his head where he was starting to get upset because it was burning. And I could tell it was burning, but it was like just the way he was talking to his mom that day. And this was probably a year ago now. And he hasn't done it since. It's like, that is not okay. Like, that's not okay to act like that when you are mad to your mom.
mm-hmm.
And he held that ball up for a long time, and we just eye contact and had a conversation the whole time he was doing it. And I'm calm as can be, and he's listening, and he is holding a medicine ball over his head.
Yeah, it's great to see them start to understand why they're doing it, and then
Mm-hmm.
it clicks. At first our kids were, they're still frustrated after because they're like, why am I doing this? But now, like they'll get mad, they'll get upset, they'll do something, and then like a little bit later, it's gone. They understand punishment, consequence, move on. That's why I try to teach my son. I was be a goldfish, right? Like Ted Lasso, I love that show with the leadership side of things, and I use that phrase a lot now. And I'll tell my son even in sports when he gets emotional, I'm like, dude, just be a goldfish. Like, forget about it, move on. There's nothing we can do about it. Just knock it out. And he's still learning because he's very emotional like me, but I have to tell it to myself, and so it adds on to that.
Yeah, that's something I do with my son because my older one, he can be very emotional when he's playing sports. He does not want to lose. Last night we were in the playoffs this week. We won our first two playoff games, and then last night in the semifinals we lost to the team who's going to probably win the championship tonight. We lost, and like there was a couple plays that didn't go his way, and he's just mad, crying, and I'm like, all season, every sport he does, it's like, don't let it affect the next play though.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna have to shake it off because do you think how you're acting right now is going to impact the next play? He's like, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, try not to. I love the fact that you want to win. I love it. Use that to get after them on this next play versus having that impede you in your performance. Because it can go either way. You can either use that for the next play or it'll be used against you on this next play. And
Yeah.
it's something, again, he's 7. It might be a couple more years until he really is able to hit that switch.
Mhm.
But right now, it's just walking through it.
Yeah, we just hit that switch on Monday with my son, actually. He was playing some flag football, and the team they were playing was one of the better teams in the league, which the coach knew and we knew. But our team was doing really good against them, like holding them. The other coach was getting a little upset because his team wasn't doing good. So one of the players like pushed my kid when my son was guarding him, like straight to the ground. And my son got pissed, like emotionally pissed, and he walked off the field. And the coach didn't see it, but I did. So I ran over to him, and I was just like, about because I knew, like, dude, he's gonna snap. He's gonna go
Mm-hmm.
bananas on this kid, and if nobody saw it, my son's gonna get in trouble. So I yelled, I ran over, and I was like, Coach, you just got pushed. I'm just talking to him, and obviously we told the ref, and Nobody else saw it, but I was like, hey, bro, like, I looked at him, I was like, hey, just like, because he was like the kid pushed him straight to the ground. And I saw it, I was like,
Mhm.
oh God, this is going to go one of two ways. Like, it's going to get bad. And so that night, I've been wanting to, because I read this book, The Modern Day Knight, or Raising a Modern Day Knight. And it talks about the concept of introducing our kids to manhood, which is like a lost concept now, right? Like the author wrote it because when his dad told him one day, like, you're a man or whatever, the guy was like, what's that mean? Like, how do I know I'm a man? And so I've been working with a friend here in town to start a brotherhood like that for fathers and sons to introduce our kids into these stages of manhood. And so, anyways, that night I was in bed with them and I was like, hey, man, today's the day. And he's like, what do you mean? He thought he was in trouble for what he did. I was like, nah, dude, like, you're not in trouble, but I want to like tell you, like, we're gonna start working on ways into manhood, like what it's gonna be to come to a man. And one of them you saw tonight. And I'm breaking down some rules for him. One of the first rules I told him was like, don't act on your emotions. Like it's super hard, but just think, breathe, and then act. Because when you act on your emotions, it's not going to be good. That was rule one. Rule two was if somebody does something to you that bullies you, you have two steps. The first step is move on from the first time because maybe they were frustrated, maybe they didn't know what they were doing, so maybe it was an accident. So just brush that one off. If it happens again, I was like, you got two options. One, you smile. You like in sports, you come back the next play even better. Or two, you hit that kid, but you have to be ready for the consequences. You have to hit him hard to where he's not going to hit you back because he's going to want to hit you back. So you do it. You got to commit because you don't want him to come back after you. So I told him, I was like, tonight when that kid pushed you, like I was glad he didn't do anything, but remember, there's options. If it's a kid that you know is doing it nonstop, if you're going to get physical, you got to go all in on that first punch because obviously the other kid's going to want to defend themselves. And if they're bigger, it's going to be tougher. So I told him, I was like, I don't know how this goes, but if you're going to do it, you better go all in. So I wrote it down on my little book, like, hey, first two rules. And I want to try to involve these stages throughout his life. And the book has some examples like hunting is always a good one with your kid, the first time, going off to college, getting married, these big things. But I'm starting to fine tune it a little bit more so he understands it. 'Cause I think we're going to need that in this generation. When we grew up, there was some pretty, like, we didn't have the technology to see all that. So when it happened with our fathers, it was very unique, right? Like having maybe a first drink is usually one, or going hunting and killing your first animal. Because you didn't see a lot of it on social media, it was very new when it happened. So when we grew up, there was probably those stages. But now, since everybody sees everything, it's not as important when it happens. Like if my kid's watching videos and he sees hunting or other things like that, if it were to happen with me and him, it wouldn't be as intimate
Mhm.
or personal.
Yeah.
But if I can make a ceremony out of it, a reason for it, and give him something in return, it'll mean a little more. Plus, I have to make it what we do, maybe exercise, if he hits a max lift or something like that, or goes on a long run with me, like all those increments. And hopefully there's going to be a day where I'm like, hey, son, you're a man. He's not going to go, what is it? He's going to be like, got it, like respect people, love my wife, respect, have my faith, work hard, all this stuff. And it just helps him move on with life, have that purpose.
And you're doing this with buddies in your community?
So my friend and I want to start a nonprofit in our town. You know, it's not the Scouts, I say, which I'm glad the Scouts is going down that path because it sort of leads us down an opening. But we want
Mhm.
to create a brotherhood or a fatherhood with fathers and sons. We want to do that relationship where, like, once a month we meet, we do a hard workout together to build the physical, like that bond. And then we have like a religious, talk of the religious side of a father and son, right? In the Bible, there's a lot of references to it. And then we have maybe a guest speaker that comes talks about a father being a role model in the community. But it has two purposes. One, the kids, they see it. Two, it's more for the fathers. Because I've met a lot of fathers that don't have a lot of dad friends, right? Like dads, it's weird. We don't
Mhm.
have like those connections that some mom groups have or anything like that. So it's going to bring those communities together. It's going to allow for fathers to meet other fathers, but also to teach other things. Like I'm not good with mechanics, but my son, maybe if he likes cars, I can learn about it from other dads, or we can have like a training group with other dads, and it sort of builds from there. Luckily, in Texas, where religion is pretty important, I haven't had a lot of pushback when I go to my church and talk to these dads about it. They're all like, sounds like a good idea, let me know, keep me posted, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm getting a lot of good vibes from feelers and the reason he wants to do it, he homeschools his kid and he has 5 boys. And so his kids don't have a lot of these friends. So he's trying to find a network for them. And we were just spitballing it one day. I think we were just talking, and he was like, "Dude, what if we just started like our own little group, not the Boy Scouts?" And he's tried these other groups. I think there's like a country one called Trailhood or something or whatever. But he said he did it, and it was like the Boy Scouts. You just drop off your kid, they're babysat for a couple hours, and there's a bunch of other stuff. But that's sort of the envision of right there. And then we teach these dads, that maybe don't exercise, give them that sense of purpose, or if their kids want to exercise. And you just got to build that community.
Man, I'm gonna steal that idea.
Yeah, because
Because
there's a lot of like Squire programs out there where you'll see like those weekend things, right? Within the bigger cities where dads and sons go and do like those 48-hour like father son Squire things. But we don't want just a weekend thing. We want like a community that
yeah,
that's just growing and it's part of the community too, right? So like if you get your your the Chamber of Commerce people, or something like that, get the kids involved with the city too. It opens up these doors and it also brings the community closer too.
yeah, because I believe, well, not just I believe, I think it's a fact that masculinity amongst men is forged amongst other men.
Mm,
Like you don't do it on your own. And how you were saying, so many fathers who have sons, they actually don't have other friends with sons or whatnot. And I feel like, again, you go through history, we held each other accountable. We were pushing each other to be in shape, to be a better warrior, fighter, hunter, everything, better making sure you're being a good husband,
mhm.
etc., good friend. Um, but nowadays, they're like that thing that is like literally gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, it's gone.
So, and then when it comes to us like raising our sons, one of the things that I talk about is I feel like the generations before that, men actually relied on their wives to raise their sons
Mm,
unless there was like something where it's like you had to talk with them about getting married
yeah.
or you had to talk with him about like have protected sex, otherwise you're gonna have a baby, like. But for the day-to-day operations, when it came to the household, fathers wanted their wives to raise their sons to be men without realizing
Mm,
that just because you're in the house
yeah.
doesn't mean that you're actually having that positive impact on him becoming a man. And women can't raise boys to be men.
Hmm.
And so, like, one of the things that I've done in my household, which sounds kind of similar to what you're trying to do, is like when my boys turn 7, it's like I tell my wife, like, they are mine.
Mm,
Like, yes, they can go to you for all the love and femininity and empathy, all those things. But when it comes to discipline, which again I reiterate is discipleship, it's like anytime there's anything wrong, like he is mine. Like you have to give him to me. If there's a problem, like be like, guess what? When your father gets home, you get to talk to him about it. And it's not the thing where, a dad would come home be like, oh, I got to deal with this. You
yeah.
were no, it's like I want to be the one who explains to him
Hmm.
what, why did this happen? Here's going to be the outcome. If you do that, my son went through like a stage of like spitting on like people for fun. And I'm like, if I were to spit on another man's face, I would have to be ready to get in a fight.
Hmm.
Like, that's what that means. If someone spits in my face, I am punching that motherfucker right in the mouth. And he's just like, huh? But like, your wife tells him, don't do that. That's not nice.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. He's like, well, it's fun. So maybe I'll do it a handful more times.
Hmm.
Versus when a father is like going like, I don't think you understand what this means. You're going to come across a boy who's not going to want to get spit in the face.
Yeah.
And I literally remember clear as day. I punched a kid in first grade because he threw sand at me. Granted, my mama was Mexican. She had me in boxing. So I punched this kid square in his mouth and he was bleeding everywhere, ran and cried because he threw rocks at me. It's like you're going to come across a kid in first grade or second or third who isn't going to want to put up with that. And he is going to literally punch you right in the face. I wasn't the only kid who threw punches in elementary school in first grade. There's other kids in the world who will literally try and clean your clock. So it's like you can't do even just these little things. And yes, a mother can be like, "Hey, don't do that." But it's like I need to be there to reiterate the consequences of doing little things. And it's like once they're 7, it's like Here's why we do this. Here's why I do this. Here's what our name means, like the Carstairs name. Like,
Yeah.
here's where we're from, who we are as people. Like, here's the background of this. Like, we are warriors. Like, Grandpa was from this Indian reservation. Like, and we were known as the most aggressive like Indian tribe around here. Like, we're literally warriors. Just all these things. I like literally am programming him his subconscious right now for as he's growing up. And I feel like that is just so far lost. Like, no one cares about what their last name means.
Hmm.
People aren't prideful of the last name. They'd rather wear someone else's name on the back of their jersey. And it's like, I don't want that. Like, now I don't mind if it's like me and my son, you and your son, and five other guys, and we collectively are doing these things, because it's not all about only me and my sons. It's like, no, let's
Yeah.
sharpen iron sharpens iron. Like, let's get together in groups like this. And it's another reason why I do the podcast. It's like, I want to meet and talk to like-minded people,
Yeah.
because who knows, we can be texting and bouncing things off of each other just through text group or DM, etc.
Yeah. No, it's needed. Like, yeah, that's cool. I like that concept. I might try some of that, or just like implement it a little bit more, because I do the punishments, but I don't think I'm as intentful. So to have the intent and the reasoning definitely helps
Hmm.
clarify it.
Yeah, and I don't like we can with especially with the programming, when I tell him like about our name, or tell him like
Hmm.
we have such a huge impact on the programming of the mind of our children. Like, we don't often take responsibility, like we were talking about in the beginning, but I don't think oftentimes realize the potential we have when we program them.
Yeah.
It's like, if you were to ask my son what he wants to be when he grows up, he'll tell you three things. He wants to be a fireman who flies helicopters to put out the fires.
Nice.
He'll tell you he wants to be a professional football player and an archaeologist. It's like, sweet. I don't care if anyone tells you can't do those things, because you can. It's like, you go
Hmm.
play football in college, go to the NFL, make a couple $1,000,000. You leave the NFL, you get to go and join the fire department, get your helicopter's license, go do that. The second you retire, you have all this money saved from your NFL career. You're able to live on your being a firefighter, and you can literally spend all your money being a fucking archaeologist.
Yeah.
It's like, that's mapped out. And I've never told him what to do or pick sports. I didn't put him in football. He fucking found football going to basketball, because all the kids were playing football after. And I was like, oh man, okay. And now he's obsessed with football. Obsessed with football. And that's all he does is play flag football. So, like, I don't know if I said that he was actually in the playoffs was for flag.
Okay. I don't know if
Yeah.
it was that or soccer, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it was for flag football, and he's just so obsessed. And it's like, don't tell anyone you can't do anything. Like, you put in the work. Guess what? You lost today, but there's no such thing. The only difference between a winner and a loser is the loser quit.
Mhm.
Every world champion in anything, they lost. They had to learn. You must fail in order to succeed. Like, this is just part of it. We should try and play that team in the spring. And he's like, why? Like, they're third graders. We're only second graders. And it's like, we can get a couple more second graders, switch up our team, be the same team, and we can beat them. This team went undefeated the whole year. We actually played them. It was the second time we played them. And it's like, we knew it was going to be a fight. And we smashed everybody else. So, like, the teams that we smashed, and they freaking kicked our butts last night. I'm like, how much did they win by against versus some of these other teams? But it's like, he's like, okay, I think we can. Okay, in the spring, like, we'll get him in the spring. It's like, yeah, dude, you can do it. And then he's in wrestling, is in year-round wrestling, and just having him like build that grinding mentality for wrestling. It's just one-on-one combat. And I like talked to him. He used to cry all the time,
Hmm.
and it's like, you can fight back or you can cry. Like, it's your choice. And I would never yell at him. Never. I would just talk to him, like, You can do this. Just the programming and the words that we put into their brains. They're freaking sponges, man. We
Yeah.
literally write the code that goes into their brain.
Yeah, yeah, we do something similar with our kids, where with the sports aspect, where we always have them play at least a sport for the first time, like to gauge it. Like I'm never, he's never gonna not be able to try something because I want him to try to see if he likes it. So when we started with sports, it's like that. We are just rotating through the year, like basketball, soccer, baseball. And then now that he's older, we'll give him options and we'll be like, which one do you want to play? As long as you're doing something, like that's what we tell him.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to be playing a sport. He's like, okay, so this year he did flag football for the first time, and I thought he was gonna be nervous, but the reason I love him at football, he's a talkative player and he's emotional. I was like, dude, you got like linebacker written all over you, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're pointing to people where they're going, you're emotional, you're loud, like that's a good spot. So he's seeing it, he's loving it, he's learning, and then he does jujitsu. We've had him in that since he was like 4. It's been on and off depending on if he's doing multiple sports, but it's always one we'll throw him back into if he's got downtime. Like if
Yeah.
we know there's a gap, like 3 months with no sports, we're like, hey, dude, let's go back and roll. He's like, okay, cool. We'll email the coach, let him get in there a couple times a week. That full body mindset, just moving around there. But he's starting to get that age where he'll find his niche in a sport, and we'll let him do whatever. It's really up to him. But most of the time, like you have to try it.
Mm-hmm.
Like go try it. Same as in the weight room. Like try this exercise. I know it's gonna suck. Like he loves hitting legs. He loves squatting. So now we're working on better form because now he's getting older. He's got some lengthier body parts. So we're like, hey, now it's not like fun to squat. It's like, let's get some good technique here. And that's when he always like rolls his eyes and he's like, ugh. I'm like, no, like this is the dojo. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna squat knees out, because he's got a lengthy body, so it's definitely a little bit tougher. His sister though is a beast. She'll freaking do pull ups. She does gymnastics. She's just a little freak in the gym, so it's fun to watch him. So like with Connor, I'm like, hey, you're getting older now, so let's work on some good push ups. It's not just for fun anymore. Like we're gonna start getting some stuff out of
Yeah.
it. And he's like, okay. And he's starting to see it, like when he was doing his push ups last night, I can tell he wasn't doing them like he used to. He was getting down a little bit lower, back was a little bit straighter, but it's, like, man, it's crazy.
Yeah. And the fact, uh, the confidence that it builds in those kids,
Yeah.
because my sister has a boy 3 months older than mine, and he's just like loud all over the place. And my son used to be intimidated by him. He'd be like, he's stronger than me. I'm like, well, what makes you think he's stronger than me? Like, did you guys go and like bench press or like squat? Were you guys deadlifting? You weren't. And I was like, so what do you mean? But I think it was just because he's loud and all over the
Yeah.
place and he's aggressive. And then one day they were like giving each other hugs goodbye when they were like 6. And he said he wanted to pick up my son. He's like, let me pick you up. And he couldn't pick him up. And then my son didn't think anything of it. I go, Chance, try and pick him up. Literally picks him up over the shoulder, just like in wrestling, like if he's dumping a kid. And that was like a light bulb moment. He was like, oh wow, dad. He was like, oh, strutting his stuff. He's like, I am stronger than Kaysen. And I was like, dude, you've always been stronger. It's just you think that just because someone is like this loud and all over the place and kind of aggressive that they're stronger, but there's zero indication of that. Like you actually work out. And at the time they were like 2 pounds apart, so it's not like one's bigger than the other, maybe 1 pound apart.
Yeah.
And I think the cousin is a hair taller at the time. And that just like light bulb moment was just like, whoa, that was easy. And it was like, yeah, because you put in the work. And then in football, it's like you put in the work. That's why. Like that's why you've caught on so quick. Because he didn't even know what football was till this past January. And then he played spring flag, fall flag, and now he's going to do winter flag.
Nice.
And he's becoming a little animal. But it's like talent, like let him know, like there's kids who put in the work, and then there's kids who just want to show up on the day. So it's like it's up to you. And he will be dragging me out. Let's go play catch. Let's go play catch because I work from home. Let's go play catch. It's like, okay, let's go. Can we go to the park and play? The park's bigger. And it's cool. It is cool.
There's time for our exercises where I'm like, hey, dude, if you don't exercise, let's just play catch. Like we'll have him and our daughter just dribble in the garage gym, like that's cool. Let's just work on some coordination stuff, will set up their little tee with the net. They'll just hit pitches. It's all repetitions for them. And so like one night we're out there like 8 p.m. He didn't want to play catch. I was like, cool, just toss it around. Because he doesn't realize the repetitions right now are going to be so important. I tried to tell him
Yeah.
like, hey man, even if it's just 5 catches or 20 a day. And he saw like a couple weeks ago, or I think last game he had a touchdown catch. And I was after the game, we're like, hey man, you're getting pretty good. He's like, yeah, I'm getting a little more comfortable. And I was like, that's what practice is. Like these kids are playing with, been playing probably 3 or 4 years. This is your first year playing flag football, and you're already
Okay.
running slants. You're catching up to the kids who are older than you because he has a lot of the fundamentals down. Now he's just working on the football stuff. Like using his hands, but he's got the speed, he's got the agility, he's got the eyes, and so that's what we try to tell him is like, hey, just get some reps in. It doesn't have to be a lot. Maybe if I'm tired, it's not going to be as much if it's a long day, but I'll still go out there and get a couple with you. Like I just need you to get reps. That's all what it's about.
Yeah, I mean that's essentially life. The
Oh yeah,
reps in anything, and we're gonna improve. And trying to explain that to little kids is it's interesting because it's like until they see the results, it's like, but is that true? But is that true? The other kid, they seem to be just really good. It's like, but you don't see what they do. You don't see that that kid has three older brothers who are
yeah.
all studs also. So he has the competition to go up
Sure.
against every day.
Yeah, the older sibling thing is a huge benefit. Like we see it in our daughter who's excelling in a lot of her sports, and sometimes for my son it's hard to watch because she's a lot better than the kids her age. But we're like, bro, like you taught her. Like the reason she's
Yeah.
so good is because she was watching you dribble, she was watching you read, doing homework. Like she's just reaping the benefits. You don't have that, which is tough being the older sibling, but
Hmm.
it challenges you to work a little bit harder because my son loves not being the best on the team, which is what I like. Like when he plays sports, he's very open to challenge, which is why I'm glad he's in the flag football because he'll compete at the level above him. He's like those sports teams, sometimes when you play to the competition of your opponent, he does that.
Yeah.
So sometimes if he's rolling and he's with the lazy kid, I'll have to tell him like, bro, do not roll with that kid because you're gonna roll just as
Hmm.
lazy as him.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, so he'll go to another kid, and he'll do good. I was like, what'd you think? He's like, that was good. I was like, yeah, because you went with the kid that was better than you, and you got better. And so like he's starting to see that relationship of just doing that stuff with people that are better than him. And so JoJo, it's hard for her because since she's better, sometimes when she's with older kids that are better with her, she gets upset. So she's had
Oh
that
yeah, yeah.
complexity of not being the best. Like in gymnastics, she's the youngest. She just got moved up to an older class. She's like the smallest and tiniest, and the youngest. And but she's still really good. But there's some moves she can't do, and she gets disappointed. She's like, "Oh, but they can do it." And I'm like, "Hey, you're like 3 years younger, like half their size. So just give it some time." So
That
she's
is.
very open to reception,
Mhm.
which is tough with her because if she fails or messes up, she just breaks down because she's just not used to it. Connor's on the exact opposite. He's used to struggling, so when he succeeds, it's like very important for him. So we're dealing with both of these in our kids where Connor is very dependent when he's or independent when he's on the field. So like he won't look at us, he won't acknowledge us. He's just playing the game. JoJo's like that kid that's like, Dad, did you see that?
Yeah, yeah,
Every
yeah.
play. And we're like, JoJo, you're good. Just go play. It's so funny to
Hmm.
watch them both play. Like football, I'll be out there watching Connor. He won't look at me. I'm a little more active when I watch Connor from the sports line. The other sports, I can care less. I'm not going to be the coach from the sideline. Like, he's a young kid. He's going to learn. Football, that's like my thing, man. So if he's at corner, I'm going to yell like, "Get on the inside shoulder if you can!" Right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I know he hears me because I'll see him shift. He won't acknowledge me, but he knows I'm giving him some tidbits. I'm not just yelling
Hmm.
to yell. JoJo, though, she'll look every play. It's just adorable. But
So what age in any of his sports activities do you think that he was like, okay, every time my dad gives me a tidbit of advice, it's for the benefit of me versus my dad's just telling me things.
it was probably this year. Like in
Okay.
basketball, we had a couple instances, but most of the times I'll coach him if I can. But then again, I don't. I don't like to coach my kid a lot because I grew up with really good coaches, so I just saw the benefit of it, right? Like my dad wasn't my coach, and so we had a better relationship. On the other hand, my wife's dad was her coach, and she had a tough relationship with him, because it's just really hard to have both sides of it. So when I don't have to coach my kid, I won't. I just won't sign up to be a coach.
Hmm.
But if there are no coaches, I'll usually do it. Uh, but this is the year where I can't remember what sport it was. I think it was basketball. He was really listening to what I was saying because he was getting better. Like he's starting to see the improvement of dribbling and shooting. So when I give him those tidbits, and I usually don't, so he's sort of like, oh dang, dad just said something. Like let me do it. So this is the year he's 9. He's starting to like put those pieces together. Most of the time I'm pretty quiet, but if there's something where, and my with the voice I got, he knows. Like I'm just like, bro, like knock it off. He's like, okay, got it.
Mhm.
So this is the year he's really clicked.
Yeah, I'm hoping that year is going to come soon with my son, because I'll tell him things, he won't do them, and then it's like later, it's like, remember when you did? I told you that, and he'll be like, yeah. I'm like,
Yeah,
well, I was right. And he's like, yeah. He's like, the only reason I tell you anything is for your benefit.
yeah.
And he's like, all right. But the thing is, he literally will ask me to be his coach and everything. I don't coach him in wrestling, and he's asked me if I could ask the coach to be a coach. He's like, you should be my coach in wrestling too. And it's like, well, you have coaches in wrestling. He's like, but you wrestled, so you should just tell them to let you be a coach. And it's like, it's not how it's working, bud. They wrestled all through
Yeah,
college and were all Americans. I was not.
yeah. So
And
far, it's easy. Like the sports I coach, I know. Like I don't coach soccer. My wife does because she plays soccer. Like that's her thing.
mhm.
She'll always coach my kids in soccer. 'Cause she's a good coach too. Like if she was a bad coach, I'd probably be like, hey babe, like there's some, but she's just a really good coach. She loves coaching,
Mhm.
has a playbook and everything. So I'm like, cool, you do a great job, And that's how it is when I coach my kids at basketball. Or, it's very military oriented. I'm not like just that dad that's just out there just probably because his wife signed him up or his kids on the team. Like, man, when I coach, like those kids know it, man. They're doing push-ups. I'm waiting for the day where a parent gets mad at me randomly because they had their kid do push-ups. I'm like, oh, but I don't even care because I make it fun too. Like I'll do it with them.
Mhm.
But man, we get out there, I'm like, hey guys, here are the rules. Like, don't talk when I'm talking. Like I'm direct with them. And for some of those kids, most of the kids appreciate it because they don't have it at their home. They
Yeah.
don't have that father figure. So when I do it, I see these kids' eyes light up. Like they need it. They need that direct communication of someone being strict with them. So I usually have pretty good teams. There's not really much messing around as I see maybe some parents have on other teams. But when I get in there, man, it's like, and I'll be like, hey, I ain't talking if you guys are gonna talk. And they're like, oh shoot. And so my Connor will be like, yeah, he's serious, guys. Like he ain't messing around. Like my son will hold the ball. Like he knows. Like
No, it's I've been coaching all his flag football, and I love it.
yeah.
It's like I didn't realize how much fun I was going to have. And I run a tight ship as well. I make them the first 2 days of practice all line up, and then one at a time, one by one, they go down and shake hands and say, hi, my name's Chance. What's your name?
Yeah, we do
Hi,
the name
my
thing
name's,
every practice till they get it. I'll be like, "Hey, go
oh,
circle. Hey,
yeah.
what's his name?" And they'll be like, "Oh, I forgot." I'm like, "Connor, what's his name?" Because he usually knows.
Mhm.
But yeah, I do the same thing with names, man. Because I hate that. I still see it when sometimes when my kid plays, like the coach will be like, "Hey, kid," I'm like, "Bro, how do you not know my son's name, dude?" Like that, you already lost me as respect right there. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah. In the very first season I coached, we had a kid on our team and like who joined maybe like 2 practices late. And the teammates were like, who is that? And it's like, what do you mean? He's been here all last week. And so then I was like, all right, we got to do this. And then I make them each season. I've done this every practice, every game, single file, go and shake all the parents' hands for coming.
Yeah,
And I'm like, eye contact.
yeah,
You make eye contact too, because kids can just be, I say weird, but it's just no one taught them.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
they don't, so they're not shaking hands or making eye contact, looking at adults. And
Mhm.
then you got the one kids who are just like, yeah, look. And I'm like, yes, everyone needs to do it like little Johnny just did.
But that's the thing. When you teach them, they appreciate it. It's not like they're turning it down; they love it.
Hmm.
So it's not like
Yeah.
you're teaching them and they're like shutting it down or thinking it's dumb. Usually they're like, I like this. I like this handshaking. I like this eye contact because it's in them. It's in our DNA. It's the way we were, bred, like throughout
Yeah.
history. That's just how we communicated. So it's in our genes when we have physical contact, or you're staring at somebody's eyes and you're like, oh man, like who's gonna look away, like
Hmm.
fun stuff like that.
Yeah. I think my team was good. So that team that beat us last night, their coaches, they were giving us so much prop on our play calling because we're running. we're a bunch of second graders with a couple third graders. The league is second and third grade. My son technically could be first grader, um, if I had him in traditional school, but we homeschool. And they were like, man, you guys are running shotgun out of everything. You guys are running motion. You guys are running crossing patterns. And it's like, and they were only doing under center and handoff. And then that guy would run in like throw. They were just, it was just the most basic plays. But they had freaking kids who looked like they had driver's license. And they had kids who understand reading a quarterback's eyes using their peripheral vision and going to the ball, because
Yeah.
some of our receivers, they were just, I think, throughout the season so used to just like a perfect pass coming and then they could kind of slow down and just wait till it hit them, versus these guys were going to the ball, coming back to the ball. They were good, but they were like, man, you guys' play calling. It's like, dude, yeah, we got a young team, but we're still running because young kids are malleable.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we just practiced since the first day of practice. Okay, here's our plays. Let's practice them, practice them. We can do hurry up offense, changing the plays. And that was really our advantage throughout the whole season of how we could beat some of these older kid teams. Um, and it was fun, man. And then they would have the coin toss. Okay, two captains come. I would have the rest of my team line up right behind them, and they would refs would be like, "Oh no, no, it's just the two captains," and we just like literally like getting ready to
Yeah.
go to war, just lined up. Everyone's holding hands right behind where the other team, they're like playing touch butt, fucking throwing the ball, just running around all stupid. And it's like, no, we're ready. Like it was a similar like mindset that I'd put
Yeah.
in my kids. Like we are ready. Like let's stick it to them. And the quarterfinals, there was kids all talking smack to my kids. And it's like, man, you guys you're little kids. Why are you talking smack? And so, like, at halftime, we were up 2 touchdowns to none. And it's like, let's freaking stick it to them the second half. They want to talk smack to you kids. Let's freaking put the hammer down. And we did. Went out and executed.
Nice.
And it's so cool with the little kids because they just have so much fun. And then you got those kids who are like, did we win? Do
Yeah.
have no idea what the score was, if we were winning, losing the whole time. They're just having fun. And then those kids who know everything.
Mhm.
Like they don't even have to look at the scoreboard. They're like, we're down by 6.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, we are. So let's get them. Yeah, it's a blast.
Man.
But dude, Manny, I appreciate you jumping on the podcast and just having a conversation, man. This was fun.
Yeah, conversations are great. Like yeah, I took a bunch of stuff out of that I'm going to write down after this, and it's always just appreciative, like you said, to talk to like minded people, because it's always just understanding that it's going on. You know, there's places
Hmm.
where it's being taken care of and it's getting done. It's going to take a while, but I think, man, that we have a lot of power. You know, there's social media is on our side. Obviously, it's against us too, but we can use it to its advantage. I
Hmm.
think the biggest thing for a lot of parents to do is understand that there's more we can do when it comes to health and wellness and just leading by example. It's not just, and I'm huge on this too, it's the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And
Hmm.
so some parents may be really good leading by example in just one area of their life, right? Maybe it's like cooking or showing their kids how to work on a car or this and that. But man, like you said, kids see everything. So if you're a dad and you're really good at working on cars with your kid, maybe you're not so good at, taking care of your body or reading or learning. So your kid may be good at working on cars, but they're lacking in other areas where they need to be
Yeah.
excelling. So I tell myself that a lot, where if I'm slacking in, even if it's just making my bed or doing laundry or doing the dishes, like those are the little things I need to make sure I'm still good at, because I can't just show my kid exercise. Like I got to show him all this other stuff, because that's what's going to help him later on in the future, is where he's going to be able to pick and choose which one he wants to be good at, and
Yep.
understand that it's fine. It's okay to do dishes. It's okay to make the bed, do laundry, but you still gotta be a man. Like work out, do hard things. I don't know, change cars or get dirty. Have fun, do stuff like that.